Welcome to our webinar on managing summer vacations with an advanced time and attendance system. My name is Mickey Noble and I will be your host. Joining me on the call today is Alan Thurston. Alan, you want to say something?
Sure. It's great to be here. I can't wait to discuss managing the vacations with time and attendance.
Great. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to explore how time and attendance software can help managers field time off requests and avoid chasing down incomplete time cards, all while keeping their employees engaged throughout the summer months. Due to the number of participants on the line, I have the phones muted. Feel free to enter any questions you may have throughout the webinar in the chat box on your screen. At the end of the presentation, we will answer your questions. If we run out of time, we will follow up with you individually after the call. During this call, we will cover employee engagement, forecasting schedules, structuring your PTO policy, scheduling for vacation season, the benefits of mobile time and attendance, how time off affects your bottom line, cost reduction methods, and then going over questions and answers. In a recent study we conducted, the result revealed that 38% of companies felt productivity levels were directly affected by PTO policies. Raising employee engagement with time and attendance software. Whenever the weather gets hot, an employee's will to work starts to melt. This affects the whole morale of an office, and there are soft costs to managing an unproductive workforce. An advanced time and attendance software raises employee engagement by providing tools to manage time in and away from the office. Employee time tracking is not just for managers. Here's how a cloud-based time and attendance system helps personnel. Accurate payroll. First and foremost, your people want to secure timesheets that log their pay rates, so payroll gives them an accurate paycheck. If there's a discrepancy between what they were expecting and what they received, a transparent chain of approvals and/or changes is recorded. PTO benefit packages. After money, the next thing on their minds is time off. PTO is a negotiated perk in their salary package. They are entitled to holidays and other forms of paid leave, and they want to monitor those hours down to the last second. Mobility. Sometimes mobility is an issue for them. If your employees have smartphones, they want the flexibility to clock in and out in real time. Mobile time and attendance software lets them conduct business from approved locations. Now I'm going to pass this over to Alan.
Okay. In a recent survey we conducted, we found that 64% of companies feel that it's important to create employee schedules quickly. And we're also going to go ahead and do our first of two polls for the webinar. When the poll box pops up, we'll ask you the question here: how do you forecast your schedules? And the answers, of course, are: do you forecast your schedules via a head count, via whatever your budget is? Do you do it based on the locations, or is there some other method that you forecast your schedules on? Give me just a moment and I will get that survey up for you. Okay, so go ahead and answer the one that best suits your company. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close the poll out here. So based on the results that we received, it looks like a majority of you base the forecast on budget. This tells me that you may be limiting your options when creating your schedules. This, of course, will lead us to our next topic. This is forecasting schedules with time and attendance software. So to predict operational needs and create forecasting schedules with cloud-based time and attendance software, you can take a few different approaches. There are three approaches that we recommend here. So to begin, you would need to start with viewing your numbers. First, you need to look at last year's numbers and those from a few years before. In a single, easy-to-read bar chart, pull together different periods of time and attendance data and compare your scheduled versus actual hours worked. Were you understaffed 2 years ago but overstaffed last year? If you look at it this way, you can hit your staffing sweet spot this year. Another thing you can do is analyze your data. Analyze the time spent across the custom categories you had set up. So depending on the type of business, you may have time filters labeled for department, location, project, customer account, things like that. Everyone's wording may be different, but the principle is the same. How is the time being used? Labor analytics can help you identify when your staffing needs are the greatest and where. Also, forecasting your schedules. Creating a highly visual schedule that lets you forecast how many shifts you need to staff and at what pay rates. This can help you prepare a payroll budget. Workforce management is also greatly enhanced because you're not only bringing in extra people or moving existing staff around, but you also know exactly when and where to deploy them. And Mickey will continue on.
Thanks, Alan. Now we're going to discuss structuring your PTO policy. Developing a vacation policy for a company is not as easy as some may think. Benefits are a huge part of attracting, hiring, and keeping good employees. With the ever-changing business dynamic, employers are expected to provide a standard time off allowance in order to stay competitive within their market. What most employees and new hires don't realize is how much thought and time actually goes into creating one. How employees accrue time and whether to include floating holidays and sick time are just a couple of the considerations when structuring your company's PTO policy. Here are some useful questions to consider. What can you realistically offer? When considering your vacation policy, you have to determine what's best from a cost standpoint to your company and for your staff. How will employees accrue paid time off? Determining who is eligible based on hire date or employee type is an important piece of developing your PTO policy. Some employers offer a 90-day probation period. How will you distribute paid time off? There are a few methods to consider when structuring your PTO policy. For example, calendar year versus anniversary date, granted versus accrued, tiered versus flat. Employers will also need to consider what becomes of accrued time and unused days when the calendar year ends. A few additional thoughts to consider. Are they carried over? Is there an accrued cap? Are the days paid out either by employer choice or required by state law? 35% said that paid time off is distributed by calendar year at their company, whereas 38% said they had to accrue their time off throughout the year. Another quick poll.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get that started here. The poll is, how do you schedule around vacation season? So when you're creating your schedule, and we're in the season where a lot of people are taking vacations, do you base it simply on whatever employees' PTO balances are? Do you do it based on their the attendance? Do you have shifts that need to be met and need to follow within the shift capacity? Are there project deadlines that you need to be aware of? Or is there other factors involved? Okay, so go ahead and choose the answer that best describes how you schedule around vacation season. We'll leave it open here a couple minutes. Okay, looks like we're good at this point. And I'm closing the poll. Okay, after reviewing the results, it looks like a majority schedule PTO based on employee availability. This certainly makes sense. Unfortunately, it might create workflow issues relating to project deadlines and customer service. The good news, of course, is you can avoid scheduling nightmares during vacation season. So we're going to cover some tips for scheduling for a vacation season. Managers have a lot of responsibilities, as you know, between project deadlines, achieving department and company goals, traveling, resolving customer conflicts, and managing a team of people. There is a lot to keep up with. And if your staff is working in shift rotations, that's just one more thing to add to your plate. When concerning schedules, situations can arise that may be difficult to avoid or work around, particularly during summer, which tends to be the season for vacation requests. So avoid some scheduling nightmares during your employee vacation season with a few of these tips. Avoid scheduling conflicts. These are, of course, are one of the most common types of problems that would occur. This can happen when when a manager, when they schedule a shift for an employee, and that employee requests time off last minute due to other obligations. Another common mistake that may come up is if the manager themselves does not account for an employee to be on vacation during an approved time off. As a manager, it's essential to keep track of all of your employees' vacation requests so that you can avoid these type of conflicts. To do this, you can refer to a team calendar that you can maintain or a scheduling software system that helps create and manage attendance. Another thing you can do is reduce overtime. With project deadlines to meet, there's going to be times when extra hours or double shifts are required from you and your team. When this occurs, it's important to be mindful of who is working what shift and placing people in back-to-back or double shifts. Requiring an employee to work overtime is okay so long as it is not harmful to their productivity, their well-being, or it doesn't max out your payroll budget for that pay period. If you're on a strict no overtime policy or one of your employees has exceeded his or her hours for the week, review your alternative options so that you can keep your payroll payouts in order. Another thing you can do is with shift rotations, if your company works around the clock, you might run into instances where you're having to switch employees from night to day or day to night shifts. And if that is the case, many managers would give a grace period between the shift cycles, 2 or more days. This is in an effort to reduce any impact that an employee might have concerning their sleep and performance. Another thing, of course, is filling in the gaps. There are times when shift adjustments, employee absences, or emergencies are simply unavoidable. In these cases, you as a manager might have to step up to the plate and fill in those gaps to maintain production goals. If you're unable to, simply communicating to your staff that there is an extra shift that needs to be filled can be another solution. Many people aren't opposed to working overtime if they're hourly employees. Reminding them of this might sweeten the deal. So this pretty much covers this topic. Another thing that we're going to cover is the benefits of mobile time and attendance. Keeping track of employees' time and attendance is similar to herding cats. I don't know if any of you have any direct experience with herding cats, but I know that it can be quite challenging. Depending on how many employees you oversee, each one may have his or her own set of varying hours he or she is scheduled for. Time and attendance is very time consuming, especially if you're manually keeping track of those hours, those shift changes, and PTO balances. A good thing about mobile time collection, both employees and managers can benefit from a cloud-based mobile time solution. Employees can request PTO right from their smartphones while they're on the go. They can view how much PTO they have available, and they also can take advantage of the PTO projection function. This will show how much time they have available in the future, while also taking into consideration all other previously approved PTO requests. Managers can also take advantage of this mobile time collection system. With functions such as approving and denying PTO requests, managing employees' requests becomes easy. And we'll continue on with Mickey. Go on ahead.
Thanks, Alan. How time off affects your bottom line. Oftentimes, managers overlook the importance of how employee time off affects expenses. Tracking their attendance while they're working is one thing, but tracking their time off is an entirely different approach. When an employee requests time off, calls in due to illness, or has some of an emergency come up, perhaps not literally, as shifts can be covered and deadlines can be rescheduled, but in the scheme of things, time equals money, and every minute of every hour equates to some form of expense or gain. In the financial realm, where employees are concerned, an employer is going to have costs. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average absence rate of an employee per year is 4.4%. Using this as a reference, let's take that percentage and tally it up against the average amount you spend on payroll for an employee. As an example, let's say you spend an average of $50,000 per employee per year, and you have 300 employees. From a cost perspective, you're spending $15 million on payroll each year, 4.4% of which is being allocated to employee absenteeism. In a total, that's $660,000 per year that attributes to overall employee absences. So ask yourself again, how does time off affect your bottom line? Employers can curb absences by establishing PTO banks, incentive programs, and disciplinary policies. Interpreting, calculating, and recording attendance is no small feat. Having a reliable time and attendance system to monitor your metrics is a great place to start and build a strategy in order to track employee performance. When considering how unused paid time off was dealt with, 27% of the respondents stated that their company allowed employees to carry over their unused PTO, whereas 24% relayed that unused PTO must be used by the end of the year or it's otherwise forfeited. Now handing it off to Alan.
Sure. We'll do a few methods to reduce costs during the slow season. As you know, all businesses have a slow season, and it's within this period that companies have a tendency to place urgency on reducing costs. In most cases, it's a good way to tackle costs by trimming the fat. Unfortunately for some organizations, the presumption is that the line managers will take the right actions to control their department's costs, or perhaps follow their CFO's suggestions to delay critical investments, shift costs from one accounting category to another, or reduce overhead. If any of these options are being suggested, they may not be the best strategy if you're looking for a long-term solution. They can be good short-term solutions that will create an illusion of cost reduction and in turn cause more damage to your company further down the line. Without broadcasting reduction costs, it's important to outline how much of the company should save during its off-season. From there, you can actually begin defining the steps on how you plan to achieve those goals. So to define cost, the first category we have here, we need to create value through cost cutting. So managers need to understand the best way to allocate operating expenses. This can be defined in the two categories, selling costs and R&D. You can influence the understanding of this directly with your managers by expressing the importance of how the return on invested capital, or ROIC, and the growth of the markets in which your company plays matter. Together, you can map out your costs, and this will no doubt reveal opportunities for cost reductions as well as growth opportunities for your business. Here we'll cover a simple checklist to refer to as the starting point to get your cost reduction thinking caps going. First category, expenses. So with expenses, you can, let's see here. There we go. With expenses, you can enforce a no travel policy. Instead, you can use things like video conferencing tools, so save money on travel. You can place recruiting on hold and utilize the staff that you have, and also plan out a budget for the following term and when demand is higher. Also, you can adjust hours or eliminate overtime as an option for hourly employees. Another thing you can do, cut back on office supply usage and office supply orders. You can utilize cloud and reference your items digitally. Next one is product. So with the product, you can adjust your product. So basically adjust product orders. So this entails price out, different vendors for better production rates. Kind of reevaluate what your production rates look like and see if there's any opportunity for cost savings. Another thing you can do is consider repackaging your product, such as creating a bundled sales strategy. Also, cross-train to utilize your current support and training teams. Make the most use of the existing employees that you have. Go ahead, Mickey.
So bringing this webinar to a close, we'd like you to leave with these takeaways. Advanced time and attendance software can help raise employee engagement by providing tools to manage time and away from the office. Forecast your schedules by reviewing your numbers and analyzing the data to identify what staffing needs are greatest and where they can be allocated. Remember, benefits are a huge part of attracting, hiring, and keeping good employees. Managing time and attendance remotely through a mobile interface. A manager can track where and when his or her employees are working, approve or deny time off requests, as well as mass edit employees' schedules for a shift change when it's required. You can also map out your costs to uncover opportunities for cost reductions as well as growth opportunities for your business. Now on to our questions and answers. I'm going to have Alan take over.
Sure. So let's see. Getting some of our questions coming up here. If you have any questions that you've had so far, go ahead and submit them here. The questions that we submitted here. So first question is, do I have to purchase a system or can I pay as I go? We offer a cloud-based time and attendance solution, and it has actually a month-to-month. So you can, after you are implemented, do a month-to-month cost strategy. So it's no contracts or anything like that. Let's see, we got another one here that says, I'm interested, how long does it take to get up and running? So there are a lot of factors based on the size and complexity of your business. If you have a lot of employees and you are tracking a lot of things like labor allocation, tracking different labor levels, you have very complex PTO policies, those do take a little bit longer to get set up, but everything is customizable. It's not, what we offer is not out of the box. It's catered to each company's needs. So depending on, it's kind of a case-by-case basis, but it can run anywhere from a couple weeks to a couple months. Let's see, we got another question here. Is it difficult to learn how to use an automated system? Right now I use Excel spreadsheet / pen and paper. So no, it really isn't. I know a lot of companies, a lot of people that we talk to do use, just a pen and paper and like our question here, Excel spreadsheets, things like that. Automated systems are the one that we offer. Stratus Time is very simple to use. It's very simple for employees to use. Just, when it comes to clocking in and out and submitting PTO requests, as well as for managers and admins when it comes to setting up the system and using it to the best of its ability. So it's really, it's not too bad. Let's see, what happens after the installation? Installation is another question we have. Am I on my own? And this one actually is a good question. We have a US-based support team that works in office here, and they answer any questions any existing clients have. So if you are utilizing the Stratus Time system, it ends up being pretty easy to just give us a call and we would be able to assist. So it looks like those are all the major questions that I have at this point. Did you have anything else to add, Mickey?
Just scrolling through here, it looks like someone mentioned what kind of payroll systems do we integrate with?
Oh, okay. Let's see. We have a large number of payroll systems that we integrate with. Most of the major ones that you can think of, we have some form of integration with them. Basically, it's as simple as going to our export section, and when we do our implementation, we would integrate a export file for you so that you would run the, you would basically create an export file that would communicate to the payroll provider. Sometimes it takes generating in a Excel spreadsheet, and it would generate it in the proper format that the payroll company would accept. So although we do standalone time and attendance, since we are able to work with a lot of payroll providers, it makes it a very good solution. So,
Great.
Actually, hold on just a second. Oh, it looks like we had a question about ADP. ADP is one of the payroll systems that we do collaborate with, and we are able to use. I know that we have a few. Yeah, I can think of a few clients that we have that utilize the Stratus Time system and use ADP for payroll. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, so wrapping this up. Thank you all for joining us for the last half hour. For more information, please call 800-561-6366 or visit us at Knit Time Solutions to request a customized demonstration of our time and attendance software. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.